And now we'll just be decorating the environment. So right here in our sprite pack, when we open it, we actually have a plant animations folder. Now we have all these plants. You can actually put them and set them in here. Actually look pretty good, and they're pretty stylized. You can actually add lighting to them. So to add animations to plants is just the same as adding animations to a normal player character. So we're just gonna select all of these animations and then set them to this plant animation. It'll tell us where to save our animation. I'm just gonna save it here, and I'm gonna type in idle. Awesome. I'm gonna rename this plant object to just plant. Sorry, plant. I'm gonna set it all the way here. So whenever we play, as you can see, the plant is actually moving. Alright, cool. And we also have this plant, the blue flower object. We have this blue flower object right here. So you can actually just drag it and drop it in, and it looks pretty good too. So something like this maybe. I'm gonna go to lights and I'm gonna select a spotlight. Awesome. Now I'm gonna select this spotlight. I'm gonna take this spotlight and I'm gonna put it all the way here and change the color of this spotlight. So maybe set the color of it to something like this and set the fall off strength all the way to 0.8. Increase the intensity a bit. Awesome, this little plant object looks pretty good. Now let's make it a bit bigger, and awesome. Now let's duplicate it a bit. Maybe set the scale of it to -X. Decrease the scale a bit. And make it something like this. So yeah, this too looks pretty good. But first of all, let's just give all our attention to this one flower. So let's just take this flower and set it as an animation. Let's make an animation for this flower. I'm gonna call it idle. And now I'm gonna duplicate this flower animation. I'm gonna set the scale to minus whatever its scale is. I'm gonna make it a bit smaller. That's too small. I'm gonna make it a bit smaller. So something like this. Awesome. I'm gonna create an empty game object. Set it as a parent to set it as a child to the blue flower and select reset. I'm gonna take this in and then take these two blue flowers and set these two flowers as childs of this game object. So because we're doing that is I want this to be one full entity. So I'm gonna call it two blue flowers. I'm gonna take these right here and I'm gonna set them all the way here. So maybe something like this. And they look pretty good too. If I set these all the way here, they look pretty good. And maybe set the same thing for the plants. And now we can just copy these two blue flowers and set them as a single prefab. Now what a prefab is, it's basically a game object, but you can actually reuse it more than one time. So if we couldn't have made it a prefab, we could have only just went to the sprite pack and went to the assets and then added it in again and again and again. So whenever we want to make this little plant animation, we have to duplicate it or add it like as a sprite and then add in the settings. But what's really cool about prefabs is you can actually just add it in. So you can actually just make it one game object one time and add it in as much as you like. So the same thing goes with the player object, or any other game object for that matter. Now if we play, and as we can see, the plants are moving a bit. They're playing the animation. This plant is also moving. And we can actually keep on decorating our world more and more. So now let's add in some details to the background. I'm just gonna go to the global light. I'm gonna put it up here and I'm gonna call it global light, just to differentiate between the different lights in our scene. Now I'm gonna make the intensity something like 1, just so I can see what's happening in the game, and then I can just make it go back to 0.12, but for now I'm just gonna keep it 1. Now I'm gonna go to this grid, right click, go to 2D objects, go to tile map and select a rectangular tile map. Now I'm going to call this background. I'm going to also go to window, go to 2D and the tile palette. I'm going to set it all the way here. Awesome. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set in some background details, some background hills maybe. I'm going to just add one more hill. Awesome. Now I'm going to select this tile map and I'm going to set the order layer for it to be -4 so everything can actually show. I'm going to make it in the left direction a bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a parallax effect. Now usually the parallax effect is actually achieved with code, but we can cheat our way with changing the projection type of our camera. Normally the projection type of a 2D camera is orthographic, but we can actually change it to be perspective. Now what this will do is it'll actually mess up the scale of the camera a bit, but we can counteract this by going to the CMV cam, going to body, and changing the camera distance of our CMV cam. So something like 8 maybe. 8 looks pretty good. And then going back to our scene view, clicking on 2, or we can just click on this 2D icon right here, and I'm going to select the background. I'm going to set it all the way back to something like 5. And I'm also going to make it a bit bigger too. So 1.1, 1.1 by 1.1 by also 1.1. Okay, this looks pretty good. And I also forgot to add one here. So is it gone now? Yep, it's gone. Awesome. So now if we play, now if I go right or if I go left, as we can see, the effect actually works. What doesn't work actually is sometimes when we jump up, the bottom of this hill right here actually shows up. So it's really easy actually. Just click on 2 to change the perspective, and I'm gonna just I'm just gonna add some tiles right here. So something like this. Awesome. And we're actually gonna make the player die when he reaches a certain point, so when he falls down, so he won't be able to see this part. This is just if he sees, maybe you can see like to here maybe. Awesome, this looks pretty good. Now one more thing we can do is I'm gonna select tile map. I'm gonna select the normal tile map right here. And I'm gonna add another layer right here and subtract one layer from here. So it looks something like this. And I'm gonna edit the box colliders of it. Now one last thing is I'm gonna select the global light and I'm gonna set it back to 0.2. I think we had it. And now I'm gonna go back to the game. I'm gonna go back to selecting these two flowers. I'm gonna duplicate it and I'm gonna go to the grid section, to the background section. I'm gonna set the z-axis to 0 and I'm gonna maybe put it all the way here. So somewhere like here. And I'm gonna edit the sprite render options. So 0.5 maybe, or 0.5. And it's not showing because of this background. So I'm gonna set this to 0.10. And awesome. 0.5 to 0.5. And I'm gonna set it right here. So it basically just shows up, but at the same time, so somewhere right here, and duplicate it and also set one all the way here maybe. Change the rotation by clicking on E and somewhere like something like this. And actually looks pretty good. Just make sure the z-axis is actually 0. Alright, so now if we replay this game, alright, as we can see, it's all the way back and it's actually moving. It's all the way back over there and it's actually moving. This is actually a pretty cool effect.